Hiking with pets. How do you prepare to go hiking with your pet, with your dog, or your other type of pets if you want to bring those? So the thing about hiking with pets, it can be very, very fun. Of course, you have your favorite companion coming along with you on a nice trek out into the wild. But there are some things you should consider if you plan on bringing your pet, specifically your dog, out hiking with you. So first of all, and perhaps the most unfortunate thing on this list is if you're going to national parks, there's a good chance that you can't bring your dog, or specifically, you can't bring your dog on the main trails. Now, there are a lot of, especially the most famous national parks, they will usually let you walk your dog in the parking lot and maybe a few small trails, but usually not the main trails. So, unfortunately, you'll either have to, leave your dog in the car, potentially. The better decision is to find a friend or a family member and leave your dog with them safely, so you can go hiking. But if you don't want to do that, you want to make sure that your dog is with you at all times. Check the regulations and rules of places ahead of time, because usually the website will tell you dogs not allowed, or dogs are allowed on these trails or on specific trails. And it is important to pay attention to those rules because, national parks are all about preserving the nature, the unique nature in those parks. And if they say don't bring your dog, there's a reason for that. Potentially your dog could throw the ecosystem off balance. So, besides that, there are quite a few national parks that do allow dogs. So you just have to look for them. Make sure you follow the certain rules that they want. Usually they want your dog on a leash that is 6 feet or less, so your dog doesn't get too out of hand. And then besides the national parks alone, which are usually pretty restrictive about pets, you could consider state parks. Usually they're a bit more lenient, but again, it is important to check the website and make sure that dogs are allowed on the trails before you go, so you don't waste the trip with your dog. And then, of course, if you don't want to go to state or national parks, you could go to parks that are not either of those things, or you could do some backcountry hiking and camping. So, obviously, if you're going into unregulated territory, most likely you'll be able to bring your dog without any problems. But you do still have to be kind of careful about, what kind of property are you on? Private property, public property, that sort of thing. And besides wondering whether or not your dog is allowed in certain places, you also want to make sure that your dog is safe when you're hiking. Obviously, don't bring certain breeds of dogs on your hikes. Don't bring a pug or a dachshund on your hike because they're too small, they can't breathe that well. It's not going to be great for them to be hiking. Well, it's hiking long distances. If you're going for a little nature walk, it won't matter that much. But big hikes, not so much. Now, obviously, if you have a larger, more energetic dog, it doesn't matter that much. But you still have to be careful about the terrain. If you know that there's thorns on the trail, you might want to protect your dog's paws with those little boots they make for dogs. And be aware of foxtails, which are little grassy things that can get lodged into your dog's nose, then just go deeper and deeper into their sinuses and can become a very serious issue. Always check your dog periodically, make sure there's no or like burrs trapped on their fur or thorns. Just occasionally check your dog and make sure they're all right and not tangled up in a bunch of thorns or anything. Make sure especially they don't eat strange things on the trail. There might be mushrooms on the trail that could potentially be toxic to dogs. Maybe they'll try to eat sticks or pieces of logs. Try to make sure they don't eat things like that because it could become a serious problem. And I would recommend against doing any off-leash hiking with your dog, unless you're very sure of the area, you've been there before, you know what to expect. Because your dog could get injured if, they see a squirrel, they bolt after the squirrel, and they injure themselves somehow. Maybe they roll off of a steep incline or something, or hit a rock. So it's best to keep them on the leash 99% of the time, unless I said like before, you're very sure of the area, there's no one around, there's very few other animals there, and you know, and most importantly that your dog has good recall training. So if you call them, they'll come right back to you, so they won't, you know, run away after a squirrel or something and get lost. And in case of more extreme weather, like if it's very cold outside, giving them one of those little kind of insulated jackets is a good idea, especially if your dog is just very thin or they have a thin coat, because they won't be able to tolerate the cold that much. And of course, you bring some dog food and some water for your dog to drink, especially on longer hikes, because just as you would be hungry or thirsty after an 8-mile hike, your dog is probably also going to be hungry and thirsty after a long walk like that. So make sure you have things to keep your dog nourished on your adventures. But that is pretty much all my tips for hiking with pets, specifically dogs. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, be sure to click that like button and possibly subscribe. And I make a few videos throughout the week, so don't miss those.